and two incredibly inspiring individuals who I know have made great strides in using the models for change to make real improvements that we see as models for the rest of us in the state. So with this recognition that people had something to say, it led to some really great synergies. For example, yes, it was my job and my counterpart, another lobbyist who came in and helped, it was our job to figure out how to get things done. And if they were trying to tell us how to get things done, it was our job to let us tell them how to get things done. However, which was different than when I was number two, it was not my job to say what our goals should be. There's this tendency when you when you focus on how to get the trains out in time to say, oh no, we can't go for that. That's too much. Or we need to set our sights low. Sometimes you can't take everything with you on the train, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't try. And what I discovered was we could do a lot more than we expected we were able to do. We were able to push for bigger things, and we were able to convince people to do bigger things, in part because when they were face-to-face with a judge who had to live with this, it was really hard to come up with excuses for legislators who had been very good, myself included in the past, at saying why we couldn't do X or why we couldn't do Y. And also, I discovered that, sometimes half a loaf is not better than nothing. It depends. For example, we found out from the person in charge of the committee that we were going to have a presumption of competence at some age in order for him to put competency bill into law. And so he said 12. And I said, okay, it's better than nothing. This will work. And then I ran into the buzzsaw from people like Gabriella, the experts, who said, no, if you're going to do this, which we don't support at all, at least pick an age that there is support in the literature for picking that age. Don't give us new precedent that we now have to explain away going forward. And, I looked at it as if, I'm the cat that went out and got 3 birds and dropped them in front of my owner, who is mad and says, why didn't you bring me the bald eagle over on the corner? And I'm like, oh, come on, can't you be happy? But I realized, as you do this, you realize, wait a minute, no, this isn't good enough. So I went back and I talked the chairman into it. How did I do it? I don't know. I first got through complaining to Donald on the phone why it is that I was forced to try and do the impossible, and we couldn't be happy with 3 birds, after we've already delivered, entire meals of stuff. But that's how it should work. Now, if they try to tell you we should entirely replace the entire state government, and do all this and all that, okay, there are times where you have to say enough. But the main job of the consultant and the person in my position is not to set what our goals and aspirations are. It might be to figure out how far one can get when one is finally done, but only with a lot of pushing back and forth. The last thing I'd like to say is, as I said to Donald when we got through this, one of the problems with being a legislator is it's not all fun. It's not all stuff you get to care about. It's mostly, even if you're not number 2, how do we get the train out of the station in time so we can say, we did that. And this was one of those rare occasions where they rekindled my passion, working with people who live this every day, be it advocates, experts, those in the courts, in the system, and recognizing how much they care, you acquire the passion yourself. And this meant a lot more to me. And I came to realize that it was my job to deliver those birds, even if they were bald eagles. That's politically incorrect, isn't it? Sorry. But I had fun. And, and the fact is, it's a great synergy. And I would like to say thank you to MacArthur, because whoever it is that thought to bring these disparate groups together, people with ideas and passion and abilities, together with those who understood the system and how to make things work, accomplished a lot more, I think, than perhaps any of us could ever have dreamed of separately.
So thank you, Gabriella and Jeff. But before we move on to Texas, I just have just kind of a little summation that I need to follow up with, and that is, when building the team, it sounded as though you actually had to go outside of what your norm thinking was and accept what on the ground action was, which would be the advocacy. And so you didn't necessarily do business as usual, but your outcome was different and was much more different because of that.
It's like if you think of it in terms of a play, you know, the director knows what he's supposed to be casting, and you find people who fit the part. This was a case where the actors wrote the play.
Okay.
The actors came to the table, and you realize, wait a minute, they could do a better job of this.
All right.
And, you know, those who don't bring in, for example, judges, miss a tremendous asset. Those who think that the experts and the advocates can only talk to certain people and only about certain things, realize that with a little coaching, they can sell people on a lot more than you think.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Very good. All right, we will now move to Texas. And Jerry, who says that being a legislator is not all fun? I thought it was. No, actually, I think he's right. Okay, we're going to start with Deborah. Deborah, can you tell us about the policy changes that occurred in Texas this year? And they are huge. And what key issues were you addressing through this legislative change?
Sure. Much as it sounds was true in Ohio, in Texas, the wonderful milestones that we achieved during this last legislative session did not happen overnight. It was definitely something that was the latest step in an ongoing continuum of change, sparked in large part by the man sitting next to me and his Senate counterpart, Senator Whitmire. But I think it's important to back up a little bit and understand that continuum before we get to the bill that was just passed. In Texas, we, until last week, had a bifurcated system of state oversight for juvenile justice. We had the Texas Youth Commission, which was tasked with oversight of our state secure facilities, and the Texas Juvenile Probation Commission, which was tasked with oversight of the 168 county juvenile probation departments. And as, again, was true across the nation between 1995 and really up until 2005, 2007, we saw tremendous growth in both the budget of our Texas Youth Commission, the state institutions, and in the population. Going into the 2007 session, and the chairman will correct me if I'm a little off on my numbers, but as I remember, we had a little over 4,000 youth in our state secure facilities.
Close to 5.
Close to 5,000 youth. And so we'd seen tremendous growth. The Texas Youth Commission budget had doubled between 1995 and 2000. By 1998, the institutions had increased their population by 50%. And so that was the trajectory leading into 2007. As many people will also remember, because it made national news, in early 2007, just as our legislative session was starting, we had a series of media articles focused on